We've had this discussion a little bit before, just about how it can be a little bit weird to be in the public eye week after week. So like people see you. It's not back in the day, if you were a pastor, like the people that came into your building saw you, but you weren't seeing yourself over and over again. You weren't on a live stream with a bunch of people seeing you. Now we've got the podcast, and it's also video. Mm-hmm. So it's, every single week you're doing something in front of a camera, and it's just a different kind of life. So like, how do you handle it if you're like not feeling your best, or if you're struggling with like your self-image in some way? Is that ever something that even comes into play for you? And I'll answer this too, but like, is that something that ever kind of comes into play for you?
So if I understand the question right, so because there's content being made, whether it's pictures being taken or video, and I'm seeing myself, and you go, man,
making you feel some kind of way.
Yeah, I look like I put on a few pounds or whatever it might be.
Number one, is it weird for you at all?
It is a little weird.
Okay.
I think it's something that is a relatively new phenomenon for pastors, mm-hmm. right? So like, you always stood up in front of people and talked, but all of a sudden now there's like pictures and videos. If you ever, even like thinking in our lifetime, like we didn't have that many pictures of ourselves. Yeah. You look at yourself in the mirror before you go to school and when you're washing your hands or whatever, but like, you didn't see yourself that much. Mm-hmm. And, we had to wait to go to see, Walgreens or whatever. Get the pictures and like, okay, that was
3 days later,
that was a bad one, So, yeah, I think that's something that can get in your head a little bit about how you look, or, gained a little here or there or whatever it might be. And so it is something I think is a question, how do I deal with it?
Yeah. Like, what do you do with that?
I think it's a mistake to over focus on it. Mm-hmm. Like, I think you got to kind of be aware of it. And I think there's some good that comes with it. You might see yourself and go, you know what? I need to make some better health choices, Mm-hmm. Like, it certainly could just be vanity, but I think there's more to it than that. Sometimes, think about that. Like, even like I mentioned, like decades ago, sometimes it was somebody seeing a picture of themselves. They hadn't really looked at themselves much. And all of a sudden you see a picture and you kind of setting them side by side you're like, dang, I didn't realize mm-hmm. I kind of slid, Mm-hmm. And so, I don't think you want to make it cause you to be constantly self-conscious mm-hmm. to where it crosses the line. But I do think sometimes it can help with self-awareness and not let it lead to insecurity, Mm-hmm. And here's the reality is most people, how many times have you seen somebody look at a picture or video of themselves and just totally talk about how terrible it is? You're like, what? Isn't that? You look fine. Mm-hmm. Like, what are you talking about? That is kind of a human phenomenon. Like, mm-hmm. you see a picture or video of yourself and you just think it's, you're just really hard on yourself. I look horrible. I look like this, I look like that. And the reality is it's bigger in your head than it is everybody else's. Mm-hmm. So I think in this world where there's a lot of imaging that's going out, I think being conscious of it isn't wrong necessarily, but I think if you're not careful, if you just let it happen to you, it could lead to either you just being really insecure or self-absorbed, and it becomes too big of a deal.
Mm-hmm. I think it's a fascinating thing to consider in your case in particular, because like you didn't sign up for something that you thought, like back when you started doing this 20 years ago, like you said, you knew you would be live in front of a room.
I was preaching off an overhead projector.
Right.
No, that's not a joke. I sat there, I made my own fill in the blanks, and I used a dry erase marker. Okay. And I was preaching off of that.
Yeah. So it's like, it's not like you got into this because you're like, man, I just love seeing myself in front of a camera. I just love hearing myself talk. It's like, you wouldn't have heard yourself preach it again. You wouldn't have heard yourself, you wouldn't have seen any of these things. So it is kind of this like weird dynamic that has because of just the change of time, like become a very real part of your job description in some way that you just never would have foreseen. So it's kind of a fascinating one. For me, it's a little bit different because I think obviously I've chosen to do certain things that are like public facing, and some of them do have to do with the way something looks or whatever. And so I think I've been maybe a little more aware of it, or that people maybe make assumptions that I feel a certain way about it, or that and so for me, in answer to that question, I don't really think about it all that much. I'm not somebody that's like obsessed with it. Like, I enjoy makeup. I enjoy doing stuff with hair. It's kind of a creative thing for me. I like that you can, in a way, create what you want to put out into the world as far as like who you are and whatever, just like the way people do with clothes a lot, right? It's like, this is kind of giving people a sense of like your taste or your personality or whatever. But for me, it's a lot more about that than it would be about like hiding an insecurity or feeling a need to like highlight something that I want people to really notice about me type of thing. It's kind of more of like, here's a portrayal of who I am, I guess, is probably a better way to put it. I have pictures and video that I don't like of myself plenty. Like, there was, one clip from the podcast a couple weeks ago that I was like, oh Lord, like, it's when I was at my sickest, and we had actually even delayed recording a day because I was like, I couldn't drag myself here. And so you can just see it in my face. It's like, this is a girl that is on death's door. Like, she looks like an 1800s Victorian child that's about to give out. And I was like, oh, I don't want this clip out there because I look so bad. But then I thought, oh my gosh, who cares? Like, was the content good? Is somebody going to get something out of what was being said in that moment? Then why do I care that much? Yeah. And I think that's kind of, for me, where it's become, it's like, this, you and I have had this discussion before. Like, I don't feel as connected with my physical form as much as I do my mind. Like, this kind of just, it's me, but it's less a part of me than in here, to me. And I recognize everybody's wired differently. Some people, this really feels integral to who they are. To me, it almost feels a little bit more like an actor who is putting on their character makeup, I guess, is maybe a good comparison, where you're like, I am getting into this, hair, makeup, outfit, whatever, that is supporting me being able to really get into character and portray this role. And I'm not saying it in a way of like I'm being fake, because that's
maybe
not what
like
I mean.
A soldier putting on their uniform to go do their work.
Yeah, it's like you're that's probably a better way. Even heck, if you're a baker and you're putting on your outfit, you're a doctor, you put on your coat. Like, it, to me, it feels a little bit more just like I am putting this unit together so that I can go do my job effectively. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think one of the things that's probably culturally right now a little weird is, with all of this social media stuff, with all this content, all these pictures, all these, okay, you've got pastors, Christian leaders, okay, we'll just say, again, that's our world, pastors, who are dressing all different kinds of ways.
Yeah,
and so
it is kind of a hot button.
And so people kind of going like, what's up with, like, what's the motivation behind that? So you'll see sometimes somebody going like, well, that's not how a pastor should dress.
How should a pastor dress?
And that's the question, right? And I think ultimately it's what's going on inside. Like, I kind of want to be comfortable in my own skin. Mm-hmm. I want to dress the way I would dress if I wasn't necessarily a pastor. Now, I'm not talking about, again, there's issues of modesty and a million different things of what does that actually mean, right? Of for males, females, whatever, people have their thoughts and opinions about that. And that's where it gets a little bit weird for me, because what I want to be able to do is I want to be able to kind of wear what I feel good in. Like, I want to be comfortable in my own skin and wear stuff that I like. I don't want to have to be sitting out here overthinking my presentation about what are people wanting from me, and
Right.
will they think I'm too much of this and that I'm too much of that, and he's trying to be this. And people, again, now that it's not just images but it's comments, so people make assumptions about you and they don't even know you, so they're going, oh, you know, he's trying to be this guy, that guy. Like, dude, you don't know me at all. You have no idea how I grew up, what I am into.
Yeah.
You know, that I've never gotten up going, you know, I'm going to try to look like this you know, influencer. I'm going to try to look like that. I want to ultimately feel good about whether it's what I'm wearing or how I cut my hair or whatever it is, right? That it's me.
It's an element of me.
It's who I am, right? And I think that's where it gets a little weird right now, you know, and now it becomes this showing off, whether it's online or into like hardcore branding, or, you know, people trying to build an image and whatever. And I don't know. I mean, again, it's like what you don't want to do is start now living a vision of what not to be. Okay, so now I'm going to not be that. At some point you got to just go, look, all that chaos of content and, you know, how I look or don't look, what you wear or don't wear, somebody's going to think, oh, that's so cool. She doesn't fit the mold, and she's, you know, dressing how she wants to dress and not letting anybody put her in the box. And somebody else is going to go, how dare you? You're a pastor's wife.
Yeah.
And they're going to like, oh, well,
wear too much
who the
makeup,
heck
you dress
determines
too
what a
flashy,
pastor's
whatever.
wife's supposed
Yeah.
to wear?
Yeah.
You, lady, you, mister, like, no. Like, ultimately what you want to do is have a sense of awareness around it, but at some point you got to kind of like not overthink it and not dwell on it too much.
Yeah.
And then understand, dude, criticisms are going to come one way or the other. Bottom line is, am I comfortable in my skin? Who am I? And be true to that.
Yeah. I think you and I have kind of boiled it down to a couple things that I don't know that we've like ever put this direct of language on it, but it's like, okay, is what I'm wearing going to actually distract someone from being able to hear what is being said and what matters? And you try to avoid that as much as possible. You don't put yourself in a complete box as a human being, right? But you go, there are some things that, like, the way this is cut or the brand of it or the something is going to distract people, right? So I'm not going to do that. And then on the flip side, kind of what you were talking about with like the physical health piece and whatever, I think you go, yeah, I need to be aware, like, gosh, am I seeing signs in me that like I need to take better care of my body? I'm not sleeping enough. I'm not eating right. I'm not whatever. And then, because I am saying this for the first time, like specifically floundering a little bit on language, but I think the biggest thing is just going, am I getting too distracted by my own appearance that I'm not focused on what needs to be said? Because I think that is one of the biggest dangers that not just you and I, but people in general experience. It's so easy to get in your own head and so easy to get self-conscious. And when you go, I'm realizing that when I do that, I'm actually turning the focus back on me. I'm making it about me instead of making it about the people I'm talking to or the people I'm trying to serve in whatever capacity, whether you're a public speaker, you're a school teacher, you're a, well, you know, whatever.
Or I'm playing an unwinnable game, which is trying to meet everyone's expectations.
Yeah.
At some point, like, you sit there, let's say you wore something that you really love. Like, it spoke to you. You found it in South Africa, or you know, whatever. It means something to you. You wear it. So one person sits there and goes, who does she think she is?
Right.
She's up there, you know, that's immodest, or that's, you know, blah, 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 right? They criticize it. Somebody else is sitting there and it resonates with them.
Right.
They go, wow, I guess I never thought I fit the mold either, but apparently maybe I do. I mean, like, truly, like,
that's a good point.
I shared this a few episodes back about like calling, and I was like, you know, I personally, everybody sort of, there was a profile that I felt like I didn't fit in, therefore I saw no place for myself. Right. And in some ways, it's kind of it's a miracle that I'm here doing what I'm doing, because it didn't seem logical or like a progression. So like, and I didn't have anybody really to look at that I was like, wow, that really fits. Like, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So in some way, if you start getting into am I meeting everybody's expectations of what they think someone in my position ought to be looking like, doing, blah, 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 you end up, I just think that's such an unwinnable game. And yeah, maybe you please that person over here, but now this other person over here, you just got to get comfortable in your own skin. Like you said, be wise about, okay, if I come in and I'm standing up on a stage, everybody's looking at me, I'm up higher than everyone, they're looking up, what are they seeing? Is this something that, man, I had this really great message God gave me, but because my outfit or the way it was cut is drawing, it's distracting ultimately from what I'm trying to do. And I think having wisdom around that type of thing, but I don't know, man. I think right now, it can become, the whole thing can become a distraction and get everybody off the point, you know?
I agree. I think ultimately, you talked a little bit Sunday about internal environments, right? We can't control externally a lot of things, what's going on, but we can control what's happening in our own internal environments and cultivate a healthy space in our own hearts and minds. And so I think the best thing that we can do is I can't control what other people are going to think. All I can do is show up as the most genuine representation of myself that will resonate with who it needs to resonate with. And then beyond that, I need to make sure that I am a whole, healthy, secure person and not overthinking or overvaluing the external parts of me to the point. And again, I hope people hear me. I'm not saying it doesn't matter at all and you should, never take another shower and be a hermit. Like you can enjoy. You and I both do. Enjoy, things that have to do with your physical appearance, but don't overvalue it and overfixate it to the point that it distracts you in your own heart and mind, and you can't focus because you're so worried about how you're being perceived. Give it an appropriate amount of attention to make sure that it's not something that is distracting people, and then after that, let it go. Stop thinking about it. Don't go back and watch tape and look at pictures and overanalyze yourself, because all you're doing is getting further into your own head and creating a toxic environment.
All right, here's my last thought, and then I got to eat. I'm getting hungry.
You've had food. It probably is hard. You've had food sitting over there, staring you in the
right
face.
There. I'm ready to eat. My last thought is this, right? Fashion, or how you dress, is a sense of self-expression, right? Fashion is a sense of self-expression. I think it's good to be self-aware about what am I expressing, and what am I trying to express? What statement am I making? Is that the statement I want to make? Where is it coming from? I think you come to peace with that type of thing, then I think, again, let people have the opinions they're going to have, but just be clear in yourself. Why am I expressing what I'm expressing? You feel good about it. Take it to the Lord. We're aligned. Here you go. Take it or leave it.